Welcome back to Blue Collar Speed and Repair. Last week, our 59 Chevy, we put a square body C10 front frame clip on it. All worked out really well, lined up pretty good. And I think I mentioned on the end of that video about the track width being too wide. I think I mentioned it. We did some looking around after we finished that video and noticed there's kind of a big problem with tire and fender clearance. So this go round, I think we're cutting up some more, we're hacking up some more, welding some more, and we're gonna see if we can do something about it. Before we get started, I wanted to give a big thank you to all of you guys watching and all of you that watched the previous video. I think that video, at the time of recording this one, is 4 days old. It's close to 5,000 views, which I know isn't a lot, but it's a lot for us. And we gained about 150 subscribers off of that. We're slowly climbing, hoping to get more and more as we go, obviously. And I just want to say I appreciate it. Thank you. Boss lady, she appreciates it. If you're not subscribed, please click the button. It doesn't cost you anything. It's literally just a click, and it helps us tremendously. So anyway, let's get to work. Okay, so the issue we're running into here is, if you look at this brace, that is where the inside of the fender bolts. And obviously, if you stand back and look at the track width, it's pretty much, well, even wider than the door is. So did a little research, did a little measuring. The factory 59 frame and axle width, track width, as in wheel mounting surface to wheel mounting surface, is about 60.5 inches. This one's 64.5, give or take. Not exact measurements, but it's roughly 4 inches wider, which is going to cause a problem with fender clearance and rubbing and steering and all that stuff. So I mentioned in the last video that there's a company that makes a chassis swap kit, as in putting the entire square body chassis under a 55 through 59. That company's called Easy Chassis Swap. I don't think they're designed to go as low as we plan on going. So I think that's where our issue is coming in. I plan on having this thing really, really low. This suspension is already 2.5 inch springs and I believe 2.5 inch spindles, so 5 inches lower on the front. I believe that chassis swap kit is set up for a stock suspension. So that's what we're dealing with. We're gonna have to figure out how to make this narrower. I thought about narrowing the control arms, which would be a total pain, and then of course that changes all your geometry. There is a company that makes narrower, or well, several companies that make narrower control arms. Most of them are only about 1 inch on each side, so that's not going to be enough. The problem with getting new control arms is the whole point of this was to use what I have already. If I take these control arms off and put different ones on, the way my brain works is I'll just have to go find another C10 to put these control arms on. So we're going to try to cut and hack and weld this thing and narrow it. Essentially, I think we're going to cut the frame rails again and cut 4 inches out of the center and narrow everything. That keeps all of our suspension geometry the same. Nothing's going to change there. We'll have to modify our steering link and do some funky stuff with the motor mounts when we get to that point, which in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to be that hard. My main concern is engine fitment. The 350 or the small block is designed to fit in these frame rails currently. If we narrow it 4 inches, I'm not sure what's going to happen. We'll have a power steering pump on this side, got to make sure there's clearance for that. Fuel pump on this side, got to make sure there's clearance for that. Our 350 that we have has long tube headers. I don't know that they'll fit especially when this is narrower, which is not the end of the world. We can go with a like a shorty header or whatever if we have to. Plus side is, if you look at where the steering column comes out of the body, moving the steering box over will only benefit us. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to yank the trans off of that engine. I know I'm talking a lot and yapping a lot, but I'm trying to get my point across and make my brain figure out how this is going to work. I think we're going to pull the transmission off that engine, mock it into place, make some measurements, see if any of this stuff's actually going to fit. So give me a minute, we'll get that thing over here. We're going to get the headers for the body. I'm going to have to take this back.
Ready?
Yes.
The header is on.
Too far. Yeah, back up here. Ran into our first little snag. I ended up having to pull the motor mounts out. Ran into clearance issues on the cab. You got to remember that the original frame didn't have this hump in it, so the engine would have set quite a bit lower, I believe. But as far as clearance issues, I mean, we can move the engine forward a hair. Sorry about the light. We can move the engine forward a hair. I'm not too concerned with that. We have plenty of clearance for fuel pump. And I think we have plenty of clearance for power steering pump. Headers are not going to make it. So if we have to do a shorty header, or honestly like a fender exit header would be cool, which I'd like to have anyway. So I think we are clear to start cutting and hacking. I'm a little nervous about it. I'm not gonna lie. We just welded this frame back together, and now we're gonna cut it apart again and then narrow it, which doesn't seem like it makes sense, but we're gonna give it a try. At the end of the day, if this doesn't work, we'll go a different route. I'm purely doing this because I had the stuff to do it with. And if we can make it work, we're gonna make it work, because that's how we do things around here. So we're gonna yank this engine back out of here, figure out where to cut it, cut the whole front clip back off, and figure out how to narrow this thing. Kind of getting prepared for what we need to do here. Stripped a few things off, a couple brake lines to get out of our way. She's working on the sway bar that needs quite a bit of work anyway. It's all twisted and bent. That's what the tow truck driver used to pull the 74 C10 out of the ditch when it was wrecked. So we'll have to figure that stuff out later. For now, I just want to see if we can get it correct. Like I said, doing a little bit of behind the scenes prep work. So give me just a minute. We're going to end up having to lift the cab off again, I believe. Well, we're going to lift the cab off again. Get it out of our way so we can kind of get to the frame rails, decide what we want to do. If you didn't watch the last video, you can see where we grafted the two frame rails together. Oh, there. Right underneath the mount. And then we did a fish plate on the inside. Problem with stepping the frame over either way there is obviously the frame mount, or the cab mount. We'd have to redo all that. So I think what we're going to try to do is cut in this area, probably just behind this hole. We'll have to do some measuring up from cab mount or whatever so they're the same on either side. I know cutting the frame close together like that is probably not the best idea. And we'll probably have to go back and probably box this section a little later. But for now, we're just trying to hack things together and make it work. I think it's gonna be okay though. I'm not too scared of it. I'm not too worried about it. I mean, if we narrow everything, all our suspension geometry and everything will be the same, and it'll be closer to or almost the same as the original track width anyway, just with different suspension. Upgraded, obviously, because the original was a solid axle front. So I guess from here we measure, get the cutoff wheel out, all that good stuff, and see where we're at. All right, started doing a little bit of measuring. There's this hole on both sides of the frame, on both frame rails. They are exactly 7.5 inches from the cab mount. So they are equal. I think we're gonna use that as our reference. I have this guy that you can adjust to figure out your angles. I set it to 90 degrees, but it's a little wider, so it's a little easier to use than that thing. So I think if we just aim for the middle of this hole and cut this thing square, it should, in theory, line back up when we're done. Of course, last time it didn't line up very well. If you watch that video, I mean, it did okay, but remember that frame was a little bit tweaked. Well, screwed that up already. Middle of the hole, I said. Do they make paint pens that work? I'm going to mark the bottom just as a reference. Okay. Mark the other side, get the cutoff wheel out. All right, here we go. That one did definitely not go as clean. It's kind of got a little bit of an angle to it. All right, I think I'm going to cut the other side before I cut the two tops.
Apparently she's front heavy now instead of back heavy.
Yeah, last time it flipped up. So we put a jack under the back, preparing for that. Alright. How did it get such a goofy angle at the bottom? Alright, let's roll this out here a little bit and start taking some measurements there. I don't know. This is the part where I tell you that I am not a professional. If you are looking for a how-to, this is not it. Not necessarily showing you the right way to do things, just the way I'm doing it. Let's cut this in half.
All right.
Okay, I think we're going to start with the steering arm. Get that cut so it's out of our way. Should probably take it off, but I'm not going to. We got to take 4 inches out of the center of this, and we weld it back together. That's going to be an issue.
I'll put this over here so I don't throw it on the ground again.
When we weld it back together, we'll have to find a piece of tubing or something that just fits over it so we can strengthen that. But for now, I just want it cut and out of my way. So, how am I doing this? Let's go this way. That doesn't really help either. We go, it's basically, well, it's right at 24 inches. So 12 inches is center. Help me. So we mark at 14. We mark at 10. That's cutting 4 inches out of the middle. This one I think I'm just going to eyeball it. Probably cut to the outside a little bit so I have some wiggle room when we do tube it. All right. Now how the heck do we find the center of this?
We're measuring.
All right. Let's do my pen.
Right here. I don't got your square, but I got your pen.
.23 exactly. It's 11.5, which means these holes aren't even centered. That's interesting. It's 23 and a 16.
They look like they're off to the driver's side just a hair.
Me and this tape measure are not getting along. Call it 26, so 13, which still isn't going to be easy to measure. Well, maybe they are centered. It doesn't really matter as long as we take both out the same amount and cut it straight, right? The two lines are straight. It doesn't really matter too much. So, where's our squares at?
I think they're on the car, maybe?
I just need a straight line. Why in the world?
Here.
Oh, you son of a gun.
Well, it's working now.
Yeah. And then back to knot. Junk. All right. If we go two inches, that should be what we need. Jesus. Which now I lost my marks.
I'm about to go get you a silver Sharpie.
That may work better, to be honest.
All right, hold on. I'll do that.
Looks crooked, so that should work. Now I don't know how the hell to cut the middle. I wonder what would happen if we tried to strand it up on the end of the frame rails.
I have no idea if we could try it.
Well, at least to mark and cut the bottom.
Yeah.
So maybe we mark the top.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a reference line at each end. And then we can mark, cut down the bottom, and then we can go back and cut the top. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Let's find some center points.
I'm gonna wipe that off again.
Stay right there.
Done it?
This is not perfect measurements. Some of this is eyeballed a little bit, but again, not a professional. No.
You wanna go? Support.
Will that sit there?
Yeah.
Not a tutorial.
I guess my fingers were right behind it. This one's right on the line.
All right, I have this laid out with a bunch of marks. We ended up just wrapping tape because of all the funky angles. I'm gonna have to try to follow the tape as best as possible. For now, with it up in the air lifted like this, I just want to cut the bottom so then we can set it back down. Here we go. Hope this works. I think we're gonna have to finish this with a sawzall. Can you pull that tire out any? Okay. All right, I'm gonna finish these bottom cuts with a sawzall. What else hanging on?
Nothing.
All right.
She's in those pieces.
This better work. It's ruined now.
Just put a Band-Aid on it. It's fine.
Band-Aid. All right. I think we go have some lunch, and I think about this for a minute.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
Went and ate lunch. Skipped ahead a little bit. I went ahead and cleaned all this stuff up. Just cleaned the powder coat off a little bit, getting prepped to weld. I did put a bevel on everything. I think from here I want to try to slide these together and see how well everything lines up. If we need to make some adjustments or whatever. That's acorns falling out of the tree. If it's a little close at the front of one or back of one or whatever, I want to make sure it's not pied. If we need to adjust slightly, then we can. Now is what I'm getting at. And I think we're going to tack kind of everything together and then roll it over here and kind of go from there. See where we're at. I haven't cleaned up the back at all yet. And we'll get to that. Anyway, let's shove this thing. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm tired already. Let's shove this together and see how it looks. Okay. I don't know if I can lift this or not. Oh, that's not bad. And we're hitting something here. Okay. Let me turn the block so we're close now. All right, front's pretty good. We do need to adjust that side of the bottom slightly. And see the gap we have here. I think I screwed up my tape mark a little bit. I don't know how well this shows up, but this side of the frame rail goes down at an angle, kind of like that. But just screwed up my marks a little bit. You can actually see it here. There's a little notch there. This side's a little longer. So you're gonna have to separate this, grind it down, cut it, whatever we gotta do there. And to verify, like I know this frame is 34 inches wide. So essentially we're cutting 4 inches out. It needs to be 30. And we are currently at 31 and a half. And I wasn't smart enough to measure the front. Well, it was here was 23 and an 8, I think. And we're at 19 and a quarter. So if we clean up that edge a little bit, move this over an 1/8 inch, clean that up a little bit, snug this whole thing up, and then we'll remeasure the back. Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm completely winging this. Never done this before. Didn't know if it was gonna work. Still don't. We're gonna see what happens. Well, I think we're as close as we're gonna get. Center seems to line up. The part that I notched out, now it's way far the other way. I don't know why. I only cut a sliver off. I wonder if we were jacked up too far. Probably my mistake. I don't have a jig or anything, obviously. This is on the ground jack stands. I'm just doing the best I can. But if you measure, remember we were at 34 inches overall frame width, and we took 4 inches out. Top and bottom of this frame rail, as it sits right now, is exactly 30 inches, as well as between these 2 points was 23 inches, and we are exactly 19. So I think that's where we're gonna go. I think we're gonna put a couple hefty tacks on this thing. Unfortunately, the front, if you look at that, it's off. I'm assuming we didn't get it centered. But I have the piece that I took out. We can clean this up, clamp it in, weld that all together, and then fill this Grand Canyon on this side. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. A couple different ways I was thinking about doing this. I thought about drilling some holes and putting a strip of metal inside, and then plug welding that strip basically to reinforce it, because that's going to be stronger than just a solid bead or just a butt weld. And it would look a lot cleaner, but I think we're going to end up fish plating the outside. Realistically, you're not going to see it. The engine obviously sits here. The oil pan's going to cover here. Nobody's ever going to see that. We fish plate here, across the front and across the bottom. I think it's going to be just fine. And then we can use, again, the pieces that we took out. We can cut chunks out of that as well to make our fish plates. So I think from here, got the welder over here. We're going to put some big hefty tacks in it, or probably a few stitches realistically, so it holds really good, at least this section. And then I want to wheel it over there and kind of see where we're at and see how we're going to join these together before we final weld anything. There's a fire inside. I think another one down the front will be all right. That's not the prettiest, but I'm also working upside down here, kinda. All right, that should be enough to hold it together anyway. Let's get the other jack over under that, and then we'll try to roll this over there. Lay it down. All right, we're gonna have to drop that a bunch. Keep going. All right, got it kind of mocked into place here. The hard part's gonna be figuring out how to box that all together. But it seems to line up okay, at least the tops. I don't know how I got the bottoms cut at such a goofy angle. I'll have to figure all that out. I mean, even if I just got to make a plate across the bottom, it's not that big of a deal. This is not a race car. It's not going to be on a racetrack. It's not going to go down a drag strip. It's just a fun toy. So I'm not too concerned with it. I want it to be as right as I can make it, of course, but I think it's going to be plenty strong is my point. I think before we go any further, I'd like to set the cab back on and set the front clip back in place, the fenders and everything. If the wheel's not centered in the wheel well and it needs to come forward a half an inch or an inch or whatever, I think now's the time to do that. So at least we can get it kind of set in place. We don't have to bolt anything down, but kind of get a rough estimate and see how it's going to look. The way these fenders kind of sweep. Like I said, if it needs to come forward a little bit, now's the time. Trying to figure out how to do that exactly is another thing, because I just put all these clamps over here in the way. So I think I'm going to take probably this piece of block, or if I have another one, a short piece, and tack weld it into place. Just put a little stitch on each side to hold everything. Then I can move all that stuff out of the way. Let me see if I can dig something up and see if we can make something happen. All right, now that it's raining, let's grab the front clip, set it in place. Yeah. Not quite. The inner fenders sit on the control arm, so we're going to modify these. I'm just going to cut a section out. Once it's all finalized, we'll kind of clean it up a little bit, I think, or get new inner fenders or something. These are pretty shot. We'll see. But for now, we're just going to make some room. Well, the front of the frame rail's in the way now. So we cut the front of the frame rails off. We're gonna have to modify that for core support and bumper and all that stuff anyway.
This is what's in right now,
Okay.
but this is the core support, which is a significant higher.
Right. So we're gonna have to make mounts for it anyway. Skipped ahead a little bit. Cut the C10 radiator core support brackets off. They're obviously not going to work for the 59. We'll have to build our own. Notched more of this inner fender out to clear our steering box. And then had to notch, I'm standing in the light, had to notch out for the frame rails here. Hopefully we have enough notched out now that it'll fit. Like I said, skipped ahead. We've had this off 5 or 6 times. So hopefully now it'll go on there. It's still not down far enough. Oh.
It's a lot closer though.
What?
It's a lot closer though.
Yeah. All right. Still not. All right, maybe now's the last time. Well, about 40 cuts later, a whole bunch of work to determine how it would look. It looks pretty good, although I think the wheels need to come forward about 1.5 inches. If you take this, please. We have about a 3-inch gap, give or take. If we shorten that up, because of the swept part of the rear fender, I think it'll look better. So now we got to figure out how to move this whole subframe forward 1.5 inches. Okay, okay.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna take the front fenders and all that crap back off again, rejack this up, get the cab back off of this thing, so we have some room to work, and then I guess we'll figure it out from there. I don't know.
It's all a guessing game.
I've been sitting around 15-20 minutes trying to decide the best course of action here in making these frame rails work together. I think my best option, I think I'm going to cut the frame rails and pie cut it, and essentially this frame rail will come up and jog over, and this one will come back and jog over, and then we can add 1.5 inches into the center. And then just like we did the fish plate here, we can do fish plate across both of those. We can add our 1.5 inches in. We've got a bunch of frame rail over there we can cut up. But I think with that fish plate there, a fish plate covering both of those welds here, and then if we go from, I don't know, this area all the way back to here and box this whole section on both sides, I think it'll be plenty strong. Again, not a race car, not a dragster, nothing like that. I think it'll work fine, and I think that's the best course of action, and I'm running out of time. I have to work tomorrow, I have to work the next couple days. It's Sunday, and I'm trying to get this video out for Wednesday. So I don't even know that we're going to actually finish all this, but I'm going to cut these blocks out, do a couple little pie cuts, see if we can twist this to an area that we like it, cut some chunks out of there, 1.5 inches wide. Again, kick the tires forward a little bit, and we'll see what happens. Again, not a tutorial. So I opted just to pie cut the front part of the frame and leave the rear rather than trying to line up everything. Trying to get both angles correct. So pie cut, or just basically just slice top and bottom. We knew it was 30 inches overall and it needed to be 34, so I just bent one side out with a gigantic crescent wrench till it was 32 inches. Pulled the other side out till it was 34. Overall, and put a few tacks on it. I did verify. Can you come here? If you go to that front bolt, centered, okay, we are 42.5 inches. And if you go to this side, we are 42 3/8. We're off 1/8 of an inch out of square. I'm pretty sure we were 1/16 of an inch off last time when we just excuse me, when we had just swapped the subframe. 1/8 inch I'm okay with. I'm sure we could fiddle around with it and cut the welds and get a little closer, but I'm not too concerned with it. I think it's going to be fine for what we're doing. 1/8 of an inch. It's a 59 Chevy truck. It's probably more than an 1/8 inch off from the factory, realistically. Okay, so we narrowed, we cut a bunch of stuff, we welded some stuff back together, and unfortunately, with the extra time it took fiddling around with the front end, I think I'm going to have to call this video here, unfortunately. I already said that. I said unfortunately. It's unfortunate I said unfortunately already. But it's already after 7 o'clock, and like I said, I have to work tomorrow. We want to set the cab on real quick and set the front end on real quick to see where the wheel is.
Yeah, sure we can. We just have to be careful.
Let's do that real quick. It's all tacked together, so we got to be extra careful, but let's set the cab on. Set the cab down. We'll set the front end back on real quick and see if our wheel placement looks a little better. It almost looks like it's not any farther forward. All right. Obviously, it's way angled forward. And we obviously haven't touched the back, but as well as the fender's got to rotate down slightly if you look at the door gap. I think that looks pretty good. It honestly could have came forward a little bit more. I mean, we still can.
No, that's where we were at before. We didn't come forward a whole lot. Only
No.
an inch and a half.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be all right. All right, so unfortunately, like I said, I'm gonna have to call it for this video. There will be a part 2 where we finish up our welding and plate everything, and I don't know, maybe we'll get the cab mounted or something. I don't know. Unfortunately, it's already really late and I am extremely tired. It's a lot of work, cutting and welding and grinding and all that stuff. So thank you very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit the button for me. I appreciate it very much. Hit the like, leave me a comment. I read them all. I respond as best I can. And other than that, you got anything to add?
Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you for hanging out. We appreciate you very, very much. We will see you guys next time.